Hello and welcome to a special episode of this podcast that doesn't have a name yet. As always, I technically won't be the host this time. I'm Trey, and I'm joined by my dungeon master and good friend, Ryan.
Good evening. Glad to be with y'all.
Ryan, this was your idea.
Yeah, it was, and I'm kind of regretting it. I wanted to do a D&D podcast. There's so many different. There's a lot of different ones out there, and there's so much information.
Yeah.
About it. I just wanted to kind of, put our opinion out there. We've had some great discussions on D&D.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's other people that would influence and would like to hear that and could add their own points to it.
What excites me about it, I think, honestly, is, again, we don't have a name yet, but we have all these ideas, all these things we want to talk about. Because Ryan and I, when we're playing, he is my go-to DM. When we're playing, we will just stop mid-session and start talking about something from the history of D&D, and we have to stop because we're having a session. Whereas this gives us that outlet to be able to talk about it as much as we want, really.
That's true. That this might actually benefit. What? We covered that. We'll save that for the next time through. Yes.
And so I guess we should specify that you're a DM.
Yes.
I'm a DM.
Yes.
I'm a player in your campaign. You're a player in some other campaigns.
Yes.
So we both have experience on both ends of that. And
right.
Our thought going into today's episode as the premiere episode of the podcast without a name is that, imagine if we could have that title, is that we would go into our history with D&D and how you start playing D&D maybe a little bit.
Yeah. I think that kind of, you're kind of the I'm definitely quite a bit older than you. By over a decade.
By 4 decades. 5,
not quite. A little bit, but as it comes to this, you're kind of the elder statesman about this. So I am interested. We mentioned a little bit before we started recording about 3 and 3.5, and you said officially you started with 3.
Yeah, I started with 3rd edition, and 3rd edition for me was, hey, there's a guy down the street that has a DMG, which it wasn't even called the DMG back then. It was the Dungeon Master's Manual, I think is what it was called back then.
In 3rd edition?
Yeah, I think so. And it was because again, it's been a while. He was like, hey, yeah, come on and play. He was 20 years older than the rest of us, but he was wanting a group, and there wasn't people around. It's back when I lived in Michigan. And so 3rd edition, my first game, I played a bard. Oh. I know we're going to talk about bards. I know at some point on this podcast, but I played a bard, and 3rd edition was fun. I liked 3rd edition a lot, but I was definitely really excited when 3.5 came out.
Yeah,
and I didn't get to play 3.5 until a couple years after that, when we found a different guy that was willing to DM. Yeah.
Now, I don't know much.
Right.
We'll get into my stuff here in a little bit. I don't know much about this era.
When I say this era, I don't mean you don't know much.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
You know a lot more than me about some other stuff.
But by the time you got it, they put out 3.5, and so they had a little bit of time for errata, and then that's when you picked up.
Yeah, by the time I started 3.5, it had been out for about a year or so, I believe, and many supplemental materials had already come out.
Yeah.
Wizards back then was just on it, about, hey, something's come out, here's a bunch of stuff.
It was Wizards, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wizards of the Coast already was in charge of it.
That's right. Because TSR through 2nd edition, just Wizards take over at 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so 3.5, when I started playing 3.5, Dark Sun was already available.
Oh.
And so we had Dark Sun, we had Eberron Forgotten Realms, we had the Dragonlance stuff.
Yeah.
We had the Spelljammer.
Nice.
We had everything, basically. I think my first 3.5 character was a GIF. The hippo people.
Yeah.
Because again, by that point, everything was available. You
have the medals.
Oh yeah.
The uniform. That's nice.
Got to use ranged rules with Blunderbuss. And, it was really fun. I was a GIF fighter.
That's interesting. That's interesting. There's a lot of there seems like a lot of holdover from the second edition.
Yeah.
And we'll probably talk about that because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of that for 5th edition.
Right.
But once again, it's another discussion. So 3 point. Did you play 4th edition?
I did. After 3.5. And 4th edition was more fun to me combat-wise, but less fun RP-wise.
Okay.
4th edition leaned more into the every turn you have main action, bonus action, move action. How are you using those? And that's how it worded it.
Okay.
Main action, bonus action, move action. And so every turn was get the most out of everything.
Right.
For my move action, I'm going to institute a charge, even though it's not a charge action, because I can do that because I have this item, this set of magical boots that lets me charge instead of moving. Because I got to. I need to be taking advantage of all 3 of those. And it's one thing that I think is good about the move away from that to 5.
Yeah.
Is that it made it less gamey. Less video gamey.
Yeah.
Because now I just move when I want to move. I don't go, okay, well, I need to make sure I get the most out of my move action.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's true. 5 is very open.
Yeah.
On a lot of stuff.
I think there's a lot of stuff with gameplay that 5 has taken away from. But we'll get into that at some point as well.
Well, okay. So you did play 4. You played 3 originally for a little bit. Got your feet wet.
Yeah.
3.5 a little more in depth.
Yeah.
You went into 4. Now, once again, I didn't play 4. Now I do know a lot of people went and played Pathfinder.
Yes, instead of 4.
Yeah, 4's not a thing, and it's 5th edition that's kind of brought everybody back.
I did not go to Pathfinder and all that. I was the guy that stuck with 4th edition, and I liked 4th edition a lot. It was 4th edition rewards murder hobo-y in a way that 5th doesn't.
Gotcha.
And so getting a campaign that wasn't murder hobo was very difficult.
Gotcha.
Specifically, 4th is the edition where everybody makes the jokes about like the villager catapult, as you can hand an item as a free action and move it incredible distances. Because again, you wanted to get the most out of your move actions.
Yeah.
You wanted using an item was an action, but as a bonus action, you could use another item.
I don't know.
So, you know,
that does seem a little bit strange structured on a like to lay out the it almost reminds me, there was a Steve Jackson card game where you're in charge of a robot.
Yeah.
And you play and you would pick your moves for your robot. You lay them down.
Yeah.
Now, if you got ran into, shot, whatever, your robot was finishing these moves.
Right.
You know, so you could go off the board or whatever. It almost feels like it's kind of like that. It's like I want to put these 3 moves together.
Yeah.
You know, and try to.
Well, and it was weird too in that almost every class had a bonus action.
Okay.
So, like, even your fighters, instead of having, like, they had extra attack, but they also had a bonus action that wasn't just like action surge. It was like another attack. And so you were constantly managing that wheel of move action, main action, bonus action to try and get the most out of it. I did play a little bit of Pathfinder. It's okay. I don't dislike it at all. It's a very different experience. It's way more in depth.
I keep hearing that it's like the the skill of a skill.
Yeah.
In order to do something.
I'll put it this way, Ryan. It took me 30 minutes to make my first 4th edition character. It took me 2 hours to make my first Pathfinder character.
Yeah.
So
that's making me think of like old school. What was it? Palladium.
Yeah.
You know you.
Yeah.
SEC, MDC, and all the. I can't even remember the stats for Palladium now.
I can't even.
You got the strength and everything. They're standard, but they're not the same.
Right. Now, we haven't touched on your history and 1st and 2nd edition and all that back then yet. Because I did go back and play 1st and 2nd and AD&D. After 3.5, but before 4.
Okay. So, I probably played D&D the first time, probably maybe 1982.
Right.
Okay, and it was the red box.
Yeah.
With a thing on that.
I've seen the box.
Yeah. So there's a neighbor across the street. He got a little bit older than me, and I messed up the game. I didn't understand it. He was really serious. I was like, well, can I went to a gate and asked the guard if I could go to the mall, and ended up in jail because he didn't know what a mall was.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
You know, so I didn't quite get it, but. The DM didn't, he wasn't like done with me.
Yeah.
And we played. He showed me Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and so I had a little bit of that. And then fast forward as you get closer to the end of the 80s, early the 90s. 2nd edition, AD&D 2nd edition was real big. we're playing that at lunch, at school, and things like that.
Yeah.
And so by that time, I think the world had grown big enough. The circle of friends, we kind of had our own stories that we could go. Like I had a friend who, he loved the Dragonlance books.
Yeah.
So with second edition, you were given, here's your, go run a Dragonlance campaign.
Right.
And so he got to do that. I had a gray box, Forgotten Realms. I had the Ruins of Mithranor. The kind of couple of classic adventure kind of things. So I did Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
And then we got into Spelljammer. Spelljammer came out.
Spelljammer's a lot of fun.
It really is. That takes D&D in a different direction, I think.
Yeah.
I never played Greyhawk.
I never did either.
I know a lot of people, and say I knew some people that love Greyhawk.
I had a DM who used a Greyhawk book in our 3.5 campaign.
Oh yeah.
But
well, they love the because apparently that's like a crossing the streams.
Yeah.
I think it actually says that in the DM. If you read the DM's guide at the beginning, when it's talking about different words of Greyhawk, because they had a gunslinger there.
Yeah.
That actually kind of dresses like one with a. Yeah, but I never played that. But we did play a lot of Dragonlance was fun because you get to play Kinder.
Oh yeah.
Going through that now. That, like I said, that was my high school years.
Did you ever have? I don't mean to just interject.
No,
but did
at
you
all.
ever have a single Dragonlance campaign that Bracelet Majir didn't show up in?
Actually, we did.
Okay, you did better than my DM then.
Because, well, the DM I had, honestly, he was a lot better than me. I tried.
Yeah.
But he was really good, and he knew the world well enough. And he was like, you know what? I'm not gonna mess with the main story. There's other stuff going on that needs to be taken care of.
That's what our DM said, but
yeah. And so no, we never ran into any of the main characters, and then we ran, and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
The brain squirrel thing. That's one of the things. Lord of the Rings Online was one of my favorite MMOs to play. And you do run in the main character on that, but you run a side quest to the main quest.
Yeah,
that's what the whole quest is.
You're not interfering with it.
And that's what he kind of did with Dragonlance. We avoided that, so it was good. Now, if you ran in my Forgotten Realms, at some point you're going to run into Elminster. But that was a little bit different.
That's fair.
Yeah, Spelljammer though wasn't like that either. There was nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, who were you? There was and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know whether they went to it, but the. What would they call it? The big manta ray ship.
Yeah.
The big ship, Spelljammer.
I can't remember.
It had a name, and it was like when they first put out the box, you got no information about that. It's like it's out there. Nobody knows. Like there's a whole city on it. Somebody knows something.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Nobody knows. I'm not gonna get big. And then they came out. I think I kind of stopped playing. Dark Sun came out in second edition, I believe.
Yeah.
And I kind of stopped. That was around the time I stopped playing that. I did like the 5d4 for character creation.
Yep.
It's like, no, these guys are tough. I did like that. But at that point in time, we'd moved into, like the Palladium, played some of that. Mm-hmm. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was great.
I never got to play that. I always wanted to.
If I can find a source book that's not going to cost me my house.
Yeah. Yeah,
I would love to get one. Well, I was trying to. I had my eye on it. Shadowrun Second Edition. That was definitely one of my favorite. And the players are OP in that. So you keep that in mind if you ever get it. I don't know much about the later editions.
Right.
I was looking at 6th edition, but holy cow, that's a lot to bite off with everything else going on.
That's me with Mouse Guard.
And then, and then nothing until. I got out of high school. Played Magic got big.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah. So we played. So we played D&D. I think Dark Sun came out. We didn't mess with that very much. We got the box set. We didn't play it because they all had the leather bound little books.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff out. Then Shadowrun Second Edition. We had the first edition, but we ended up playing the second edition, and I think we actually played that through up to third edition.
Yeah.
But we never actually played that. We played that, and then Magic. Right as we got out of high school, Magic the Gathering was getting really big.
Yeah.
And the dude that was the dungeon master for Dragonlance, he was lucky. He had a luck factor. He was long shot. All right. Yeah. He had a luck factor. We would sit and we'd build decks at home, right?
Bonus points to anybody who gets that reference.
Yes. Yeah. Now you know how old I am. we would sit at home and build decks. Now he is a better player than me, hands down. He's definitely a better deck builder than I am. So overall, he's gonna win. But when we sit down at home and we go, I could match him 50-50.
Yeah.
If I ever sat down across from him in tournament, he'd wipe me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like my deck would just stall out. It's like, really, I just drew 7 land. 7 land on my second mulligan.
Forgive the Yu-Gi-Oh reference, but you just didn't believe in the heart of the card.
Yeah, no, I didn't. No, I did not. I've seen him make people. He was so good. He was so good at that. I've seen him make people take their decks and throw them.
Nice.
And I'm like, that's $500 right there.
Yeah.
I know cards in there and what they spent to get that at least and throw them. I never did because I knew he was his decks worked with that. I don't know if he cheated or not. No, it's a luck factor. He was good. And I tell you how I know it's a luck factor. It's Mom on the bar. We were there one night afterwards, and we weren't drinking. We were they had one of those automatic dart things, right?
Yeah.
Beating his butt all night long. You got one more dart to throw. If he hits a bullseye, he gets it. He'll beat me. That's 50 points. He can't throw darts. So he doesn't throw the dart. He turns away from the machine, jumps up, and throws backwards like that and hits a bullseye.
Of course, yeah.
And I know if anybody hears this,
they're gonna be like, that didn't happen.
And I'm like, I promise you. That is not all. And now you understand the story of his life and the story of mine and why I'm sitting here on a microphone now griping about it.
And this is why you're a DM.
Yeah, this is why I'm a DM.
You can control
some, yes, and control some of these things. Oh my god! But yeah, then it was
the luck.
Yeah, but after that, I didn't play anything, and then so it was a long time. Then got into 5th edition, and some guys were like, "Hey, we want to play D&D," and I was like, "Well, I used to DM, and I help it." So I got online, looked some stuff up, and was like, "Okay, I'm gonna." The character creation is not too far off.
Right.
It's got the same stats. I'm going to throw in some 2nd edition stuff that I know, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And so I was doing the roll under and some other stuff.
Yeah.
And so we actually played. It actually went good for a few sessions. They were real appreciative. Actually, most of my D&D stuff's gifts for DMing. I got the player's guide, the DM's guide.
Yeah.
And all that. But so it's been here recently, getting back into it.
Yeah.
I don't know, past 2-3 years.
I think if we can kind of segue this into how other people might want to get into D&D, 5e is like the place to start, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the cleanest edition, maybe, is the best way I could put it.
3.5 is still my favorite.
Yeah, I still love. I still love 2nd edition as well, and I'm sure nostalgia is playing a part of that.
No, I'm sure.
But
things were very different. Like for anybody who's like, well, it's just a little bit of difference. No, there's a lot of differences.
Yeah.
Like 2nd edition clerics can't use edged weapons.
Right. No.
Paladins cannot do wrong.
No, you have to be lawful good,
or you lose your powers.
Yes.
It was a very different world. And it still is, because you can still play those editions. That's the best thing about D&D, in my opinion, is you can still get a group together and play those editions.
Yeah.
If I wanted to, I could get a group together for 3.5, and we could mess around in an incredibly vast network of books that, as we'll talk about in different episodes, books that are actually good for the Dungeon Master as well.
Yeah.
But without doubt, 5th edition is the place to start if you're looking to get into D&D. It's so open and freeform. You can learn so quickly without having any real restrictions on you, other than just the basic stuff of how rules work.
Absolutely, basic character creation. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Which even I look online, and you can start off through that. That's this will come up later about what they've done with character creation and how far that's
We're
gone.
Not
but
sponsored by D&D Beyond, but you can make like 3 free characters on D&D Beyond, or is it 5?
I think it's 3.
It might be 3.
I don't remember. I actually pay the subscription.
Yeah, I do too.
For that, so I can share the stuff.
Quick sidebar. I wish D&D Beyond let me select 3.5 and do it in 3.5 edition. I wish I could make a character in 3.5 on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, that would be.
I get why you can't, because people that are new don't need to fall into that trap of picking the wrong edition.
That's true,
but give me the option.
Well, do you get that with what is it, Roll20 or the tabletop?
No, so Roll20, you don't get to just make a character in Roll20. You have to import the character. So you have to already have the character as like a sheet, basically. You can manually assign stats.
Okay.
But
Right. Okay.
So like
I don't know.
technically create 3-5 characters in there. You just have to roll them on a 3-5 sheet already.
I got you.
And then import them in.
All right. I don't know. Do they have a suggestion box? Put it in there.
Yeah, they should. They should.
Can I do earlier editions?
I want to do a 3-5 campaign with D&D Beyond. Come on. But I guess to be fair, that would also include them having to add
all the licensing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, I don't think that yeah. I don't think they make the money back license.
No, they would
We got
not.
3 people. We got 3 people that pulled up 3.5 and
look, I just want to play a 3.5 fighter again. That's all. Like 3.5 fighters were broken, and I miss it. They were so good.
See, I don't know. Yeah. See, Rangers were good in second edition.
Yeah, they sure were.
You always automatically had the 2-weapon. You got that.
I wish Rangers were good in 5th edition.
I know. That's.
We're going to talk about that too. So, like, we should probably say our plans for this podcast that doesn't have a name, the podcast with no name, is
exactly.
to expand out into classes and sources, the DMG, the Monster Manual, the PHB. We want to talk about all this stuff. We're obviously taking suggestions as well. If you want to put in a suggestion in the comment section down below as to what you'd like to hear us cover. But we talk about D&D all the time when we're having a session.
Yeah.
So, like, we don't mind talking about it more.
No, not at all. We're just going to record it now.
Yeah. So, hopefully, like we said earlier, this will stop us from interrupting our sessions with it. There are multiple times a session where we're like, everything's going great. And then just, you remember how this worked in 2nd edition?
Right,
and then
yeah.
it just derails. It does mean that this podcast will probably be a little bit more freeform. And I know you're used to freeform from the Full Spectrum podcast, but this one will have a little bit less structure somehow.
But it will be mostly D&D. So
except for magic.
Yeah, right, magic. Or Shadowrun or Palladium Turtles.
Oh man, Mouse Guard's gonna come up at some point. I want to play Mouse Guard so bad, and that's impossible to get a group for now.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you, as we're kind of going through history, there's how many RPG games have gone by the wayside? I'm trying to think of some that I haven't seen. Torg, T-O-R-G, Targ.
Yeah, I never got to play that, but it's really good.
What was it? GURPS.
Yeah.
Generic something role-playing system. GURPS got big for a while.
I thought you were Torque.
The time-traveling one. Where if you were a gunslinger, but you went back to, I almost said feudal Japan, but that's the same time, actually.
Yeah.
So if you went back...
laterally to feudal Japan.
Yeah, if you went back to an older empire or something like that, your guns wouldn't work.
Right.
Or you had to roll. I vaguely remember that.
Well, and even stuff like Fate is kind of like falling to the wayside now. You don't ever hear people talking about playing Fate campaigns.
I don't know much about that.
It used to be really big. It was like you could use. So basically, the rundown would be when you're creating your character, you have fate points. Okay. And so if you take a flaw, like a character flaw, you get more fate points. And so then you spend your fate points to do cool stuff later on.
Okay. So something like that, there was, because there's a few games that had flaws in them. What they call it? And I believe which Turtles was a Palladium system.
Yeah.
The same system as, Rifts.
Yeah.
Palladium,
Rifts
Turtles.
is another one of those. Another one of my DMs, we don't get to play very often because I'm busy now all the time.
Right.
Except for when I'm already out and about like now.
Yeah.
Super late into the night. He loves riffs, and that's one of those things that I would love it to have time to get into that.
Yeah.
But I don't.
No, and if I remember, I don't know. See, being out of the loop for so long, I don't know that Palladium ever actually went, okay, we're going to update our system.
Right. I don't think they did. I haven't heard of them in a long time.
It's all the same way. Because I remember going through, like Turtles was a big one. We played a little bit of Riffs. And that was... Riffs is just a cool world.
Oh, yeah.
When you talk, the ley line walkers, and it's a really interesting setup. So that had that's the Palladium system.
Right.
Honestly, the Palladium system is a lot more universal. It's a lot more complicated. It's a lot more universal than D&D would be. But it's intended to be, so fair is fair on that. I'm trying to run through my head of any others.
I just keep coming back to Mouse Guard, man. I wanted to get a mouse guard campaign going so bad. And nobody talks about mouse. It's dead, right? Like, it's not coming back.
I guess.
I just want, look, all I'm saying is I want a campaign with mice where you play as mice and fight eagles. That's all.
Yeah. I did that. I don't know.
The rule set's not that great, but, it works.
Yeah. Well...
Well, then you have, like, the new stuff, too, that hasn't really gained a lot of traction, unfortunately. Like, the Cogent stuff that Shadowversity and Jazza are doing.
Oh, yeah.
That stuff seems cool, but you look at how pervasive, and even Pathfinder 2 in some ways, you look at how pervasive 5e is.
Yeah, well, I think that's accessibility.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
If you want a simulation, you don't play 5e.
Yeah.
5e is a comic book.
Yeah.
It's a movie, and it can get out of hand really quick.
Oh, absolutely. You can break 5e so easily.
Oh, yeah. And I think we talked about it before. We may go in depth at it another time, but like the starter set, if you just go and pick some of the classes that are now, you've broken the starter set.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, you take 5e, I could run Mouse Guard in 5e. Yeah. I could do that so easily.
Yeah. Well, for it's that accessible, and as long as you're not, I want to do a Western campaign, and I'm working on 5e, and I have to break down and change a couple of things, just to make guns more viable.
Yeah.
But the character creation, the basic stats, and some of the skill setups, at least with proficiency and stuff like that, that's so basic. So it's so clean, again, that you can use it almost for anything.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I know Pat brought it up a couple times on the podcast. I don't know if you heard him talk about it or not. He wants to do a Star Wars campaign that he wants to run using 5e. Even though there are Star Wars settings, he wants to use 5e because of how simple it is to homebrew stuff in 5e.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing in the world to just go, okay, I need an ATST walker. Let me take this golem...
Right.
And now it's an ATST walker, you know? Let me add some beam attacks, and there you go.
Yeah. Wow. You watch your action economy, and you can give your players a good time with that, and easily. Mm-hmm. Easily. I can see that. Actually, that might be... I'm trying to think of how to do lasers. That's interesting. That would be a fun just a experiment.
Oh, yeah. Would you make a turbo laser or disintegration beam, or...
just a laser pistol. I've never. Han Solo was my favorite. All right, I never wanted to. I know Jedi's were cool.
Yeah,
but they had this code you had to stick to, and that just seemed like a lot of work.
Star Wars,
I don't know.
My fault.
I'm blaming you.
No, I agree.
That was cool. That would
laser pistols would be a really cool thing to have.
Yeah,
Spelljammer again. Laser pistols.
Yeah, and I'm trying to. Well, the I don't know how Spelljammer was in the edition you were playing.
3.5 Spelljammer was nuts.
Well, it was in second edition. It was nuts too, just because you had your Navy rules, right? Your battleship rules that don't work. It seems like you put them in space, but once you add another, at 360 degrees, you got to worry about these things now. It does. It makes a difference. It's gone through, and there were some weird things. And then 3.5, I'm pretty sure it was still the same.
Oh yeah.
Guys, and off that was you don't use fire spells,
right?
In certain areas.
No, you absolutely no.
Right.
But you use electricity.
Yeah.
And so you would put on the top of your vessel, top of your ship, you would put the crow's nest, and then you would add a wizard, small wizard tower to the top of the crow's nest, and you put your wizard that you hired back in town on top of that to shoot lightning at other ships in case they had tried to attack to ward them off.
Yes.
That's another thing too that I think 3.5, I don't mean to just derail us.
No, keep going.
3.5 did better was not companions but hirelings. In 3.5, there was all kinds of rules for you want to hire somebody.
Yeah.
Here's all the rules for how it works. Here's how much it's going to cost per day. Depending on how you and the DM work it out with how your interactions with that hireling is, it may cost more or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's all the rules so the DM doesn't have to go, okay, well, I guess I'm rolling for another NPC every fight. Here's the rules so they can run a hireling.
Yeah. You get a touch of that in the DM's Guide in 5e. Like I said, the information that they give in 5e is kind of an interesting pick out, and I'm sure we'll have
that's gonna be a whole
fifth
podcast,
banding.
I guarantee you.
But it seems like with the earlier editions. Also, okay, here's something just broadly across there. Earlier editions, the characters seem much more specified.
Yes, 100%.
Just as an example, like 5e, anybody's you can use 2 weapons. Go ahead. As long as they're the same. Go ahead.
Well, and it also leads to like that other problem, which as DMs we have to face all the time is, the person who was doing the perception check failed it. Now the rest of the party is going to roll to do a perception check. Yeah. Because back in the earlier editions, that wasn't how it worked. No. It was, hey, this person's proficient in it, which means they're the only one that has a chance of seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah. I always like writing down on the note here, WP, my weapon proficiency is, my NWP, my non-weapon proficiency.
Yeah, you were way more specialized. You were stuck in your role, basically, of, like, for better or worse, right? Of, this is what I do, and I'm good at it.
Yeah, but it's the strength and weakness of 5e is the openness. I am not comfortable with the idea of having a paladin / warlock in a group. But to me, that is like that makes no sense.
It feels really weird.
It kind of breaks everything down.
You can do it, but I'm not shaming anybody that does it.
No, it
feels weird.
It does. It feels strange. It feels awkward.
A cleric using a sword is a thing that, like, okay,
I know. I like cleric.
I get by the rules. You can use that.
It just doesn't feel right. It's not wrong. It's like eating a hot dog naked. Yeah. It's not wrong. It just doesn't feel right.
Right. Yeah.
I don't. So coming to terms with 5e. That maybe that should be the title. The title of the podcast. Coming to terms.
Yeah. Learning to love 5th edition.
No. Yeah.
I think it is fun though. 5th edition. Yeah.
I do because it is fun. Yeah. And honestly, the gripes I have are easy fixes a lot of times and are just silly.
Well, I think I'm at this point now where I would rather have the dumb fun of 5e than I would have the overcomplicated 4e for sure. And a lot of the older editions. Like, you get into THACO.
Yeah. When you're running equations to figure out what you can.
Yeah.
What you can.
Does it hit me or not?
But I will say this. Here's something. 20th level villain meant something.
Yes, I agree.
In 2nd edition. Because if you're a 3rd level fighter or a 3rd level thief, you are not getting a hit.
Yeah.
There's
no way.
It's not happening.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Right.
And that's another thing that, again, we'll get into it when we talk about the DMG, because I think the DMG does not prepare DMs in 5th edition well enough. When you make a boss monster, you are going to lose that boss monster. Probably within a couple turns. Yeah. And you're going to be shocked at how strong your players are. Yeah. Because in your head, this guy's super tough. He's got 4 attacks. He's got 300 HP. But then your barbarian over there rolls and does 80 HP in 1 attack. Yeah. And it's like, oh.
And then, the weakness of 5e, this will be discussed later too, but we're just going to discuss it now as well. Because it's come up. The advantage-disadvantage system.
Yeah. Very easily abused.
And that goes into some of the arguments we have about some of the stuff they put out, because you got a feat where if you're an elf, you can roll 3 dice. Yeah. I do miss. I think people, and it causes people to underestimate the power of a +1. Yeah. I miss that a lot. I almost for the campaign we're running, I was also like, okay, if we're gonna do flanking, we're not gonna do advantage. We're gonna do a +1 depending on where y'all are around the monster. If 3 of y'all are there, then everybody gets +2. Right. I kind of like the. Be careful. Be aware. There we go.
I caught it.
Excellent job, sir.
Thank you. No, I mean, I agree. I think that, like, all the problems 5e has, it's still really good. So for anybody who's like, hey, we're just bashing 5e, it's still where I recommend you start. But it's so easy to break.
Well, see, I think it's a problem. The players and the DM are on the table. Yeah. At the end of the day, I don't care what edition you're playing or what role-playing game you're playing, that's going to define it.
Yeah, I agree.
the Sunday group that we play with, that is a story driven group. They want the story to go along.
Absolutely.
You know, if y'all were more of a simulation or something, you know, then it would be a lot harder. You know, we'd maybe use a couple different roles, the optional roles.
Yeah, I don't know that we'd run straight 5e if we wanted to run like a dungeon crawler, and that's all we cared about was dungeon crawl.
Yeah.
Like, we would probably go for encumbrance. We would probably go for a little bit more gritty when it comes to survival.
Right.
And I think that you can do that, but I think that the rules as written don't push for that, you know? And that's where I think we're talking about getting started.
Yeah.
If you're not careful when you get started, you will make your players way stronger than you mean to.
Yeah.
And you will be very quickly scrambling to try and keep up as a DM.
Oh, yeah. OP is really quick. There was, which you'll find this with any edition.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a peak area where things go good if you're following the rules.
Yeah.
It'll kind of be at its best. Mm-hmm. And I think for 5th edition, we're probably talking 5 to 10.
Yeah.
8 to 10 right in there. You got some really cool stuff you can do. You can't use a challenge rating one for one right now.
Challenge rating's the whole thing we got to talk about at some point.
Yeah, but it's closest there. I don't think 5e's really prepared after 10, especially not after 15. I think some earlier editions did a much better job of that.
Oh yeah, 3.5 was way better at epic campaigns. Once you get to 20, 5e's just not built around going past 20.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I mean, the past 20 is not even in the book, first off.
True,
so,
true.
You got to go outside the book to be able to continue leveling.
Right.
And then in the monster manual, there's like 5 monsters designed for past level 20. So I guess other than that, it's just keep throwing more of the previous.
Yeah.
Like you got Tarask.
And this may... Right.
Tiamat.
You got what? Now Tiamat's not
well, that's true.
Monster
Tiamat's not monster manual.
Tarask is. You've got a Empyrean.
Yeah.
That one's over 21, I think. The highest you got is a Tarask at 30.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you got a couple at 23.
And I know there's more monsters than that are past that challenge level.
And I'm kind of wondering if it was the openness of what they wanted, the simple of 5e that's kind of brought that down, brought that down a little bit. I do have a 3.5 monsters manual over there that I enjoyed looking at.
Oh, that monster manual's great.
More than the 5e. The 5e monster manual's not much to look at. It's like dragons.
I think you're better off just using D&D Beyond for the monsters in 5e, honestly.
I think so. Well, honestly, okay, here's another thing with 5e I found. You were talking about homebrewing earlier and how much easier it is to homebrew in that. And it is. I can throw together a monster on a fly, a challenging monster on the fly in 5e. Yeah. And that I'm not so sure I would feel comfortable doing that in earlier editions.
Yeah, I agree. For my last big campaign that my group ran, I created a brand new race using the 5e rules as a monster first, and then as my players encountered it more, one of them wanted to play one.
Oh, nice.
And it was the easiest thing in the world to just go, I'm going to take the base stats of a gorilla, and I'm going to convert it over into this race called the Endymions. And here we go, because again, like you said, it's for all our complaints, 5e when it's on point, 5e is on point.
Yeah, that's a good. It's with the old Nigeria. It's the little girl with the curl.
Yeah.
When it's good, it's very very good. It's bad, it's horrid.
Yes.
But that's a great statement. I mean, when it's on point, it really is. And I think that allows the fun of it and the growth of it. I think it's bigger. It's bigger than it's ever been in my life. Mm-hmm. Nobody. It's way more mainstream than it's ever been in my life.
D&D used to be, when I was a kid, D&D, and probably even more so with you, D&D was, that's the spawn of Satan. Don't get near it. Don't touch it. Don't be around it.
I did start my story in 1980. Yes.
That was the core of that, and then now it's on the news and it's on Twitch and, it's all over YouTube, and it is much more not just accepted but available, like you said.
Yeah.
There's no better time to play D&D than right now.
It's true. And look, I realized there were some very pretty talented people, and I love watching them too.
Oh yeah,
that help boost it, and I'm pretty sure I don't need to say.
Yeah,
that everybody should know.
Oh, I'm going to say them anyway for the sake of being able to put them in the tags.
Oh, okay,
but,
okay.
Like, I love Critical Role.
Right,
you know,
right on,
Critical
right
Role is great. Matt Mercer's a great DM. I think a really great episode at some point for this podcast would be us talking about the Matt Mercer effect.
Oh yeah,
and how it works on both players and DMs.
Yeah. So yes, because I have pointed. Okay, just really quick because I've had this discussion about why don't you because I do voices.
Yeah.
One, his vocals are trained to do that for a while.
He's a professional
right? So like he could go on that a while. After like 2 minutes, I'm like, hey, can we talk?
Yeah.
It's like talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna get some water.
You did that voice, and I reached for my water.
Water would be nice. But yeah, I was like, well, because I don't have those players.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, if we're gonna interact like that.
Oh yeah, no, you better be 100% as well. Right. I'm going 100%.
But then again, there it is. There's the whole. It's the table.
Yeah.
DM all the way around.
Well, and that's when we were talking about editions earlier and how you can run any edition you want. Part of this conversation has been how do you start?
Might have.
Every table. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just go ahead. I hit the button. I'm sorry.
Oh, every table's independent, right? Every table's going to be different from every other table, and when it comes down to it, any advice we give, any advice anybody gives, is not good if it's not good for your table.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's always what's best for your table.
This isn't a completely different conversation that we had, but it does go to this. This is there's a difference between wisdom and law.
Yeah.
And nothing is set. Nothing about that we're talking about is set in stone.
So, Ryan, if somebody wanted to play D&D today, how should they go about getting into D&D? Because we've already told them, 5E's is the place to start. But how are they going to find a group? How are they going to find players? Do they want to DM? If they want to DM, what do they do? And maybe this is a topic to save for another podcast.
Well, we can touch on it because I think there's some, like I said, it's more accessible. Mm-hmm. We're talking about that, and I really think there's a lot you can get free. I know you can get the character sheets.
Oh yeah.
And for people that never played, if you have the character sheet, that's going to help you out a lot. Even if you make your character on notebook paper, just to look back on that, because it's got all the skills on there.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of stuff for your basic character. Do that. D&D, I believe, and I will look into this. I believe you can go on D Beyond, go how to get started, and actually get a few things free to get you going. And if you sign up for the account, which you can have a free account, I think you get 1 set of dice, 2 set of dice.
I think so, yeah.
So as long as you have, barring internet access, that probably would be the way I would point somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you need to know at least one other person.
Yeah. Well, and when it comes down to it too, I prefer to play D&D in person. Obviously, to me, it's way more visually is maybe the word. Even when you don't have like a board laid out, it's way more visually. There's a word for it. I can't think of it right now.
It's an interactive game anyway, so being able to see face to face is a little bit. But
the group that I DM for right now is on Discord. We don't get to play as often as I'd like. We haven't played in months because of everything going on in the world. But we play for 2 to 3 hours a night, once a week when we can on Discord. You absolutely can do it through Discord. There's so many options now. We use Roll20.
Well, honestly, so yes, you can do it through Discord. You've got a lot of stuff that you can spend money on. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to avoid that. I'm sure the Google Plus Google Rooms. It's not Google Rooms anymore. It's Google Plus, is it not?
Yeah, it's Google something like Google Meet or something like that. But you can use that as well. Absolutely.
And then you've got like Tiny Chat, which are just give you room to talk.
You can use if you don't want to use Roll20, you can use Discord and just share your screen and use Microsoft Paint and be able to have a setup that way.
Yeah.
There's a ton of options that don't cost you money.
Well, even if so Discord. Yeah, because you could set up a bot for a roller, right? You dice roller on this. Yeah,
there's so many more options than were when we were young.
Yeah, it is. Well,
you don't have to go to that guy that's 20 years older than you's basement anymore.
and I know all these options is when you start laying them out.
Yeah,
and it's really a lot. Now I do believe it's an official D&D site where you can actually go get free character sheets.
Right. D&D Beyond has them too.
Yeah, but there's
But I think there's a limit on how many you can download. Whereas Wizards just has the sheets on their website.
And you have, they also have a huge selection of pre-made characters on there.
That's true. They absolutely do.
On the Wizard site.
Yeah, if you don't feel comfortable making a character because you don't know what to do, but you want to play, you can download one of the pre-mades. I think they even have a level 1 to 4 adventure on there for free. That's part of the starter kit.
I'm wondering about that for D&D Beyond too. I think there's an adventure in there to get you going that leads to. I'm pretty sure it's a starter kit. Maybe,
yeah, I think so.
Leads up to that.
That's a whole nother discussion too of should you run pre-run adventures or homebrew your own. That'll be a really fun one.
Yeah. and honestly, sir, I would like to have somebody. I would like to talk to somebody who's on the book side. That's good at running book adventures. Because I am not good at running book adventures.
I'm not either. I get upset with book adventures every time.
And I honestly, I think this may be. If we strip D&D down to what it is, Now we have some inside information. And we understand that we may be forgetting what it's like to be a dummy on this stuff,
right?
As we're talking about this and not getting back to it, but with a character sheet, and combat rules, I'm trying to think of anything else to throw in. I actually think
that's pretty much it, really.
You could go with that. You could work with that.
Because that adventure's going to run down all the stuff you need when it comes to monster stat blocks.
Right.
You got your own stats. Yeah. I mean, realistically, you're going to level, so you're going to need to know what your level 2 and level 3 stuff is, but that's all free on D&D Beyond. Yeah. Because that's PHP stuff.
Well, it's a limited PHP stuff, and I can't remember what they call it. Because it's like, instead of having... I think you get like the fighter. You get 2 of the subclasses instead of 3.
Yeah, you won't get access to everything, but you'll be able to play.
Yeah, and really, it doesn't take a lot.
Ooh, man! With that in mind, what do you recommend? This might be a whole nother discussion too. What do you recommend for new players for classes?
Well, one, just generically, don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah,
and do your DM, do yourself a favor. You're going to get to do cool heroic stuff.
Yeah.
Finding the hero in your character is not the problem.
Right.
It's finding the actual person in there, the flawed part of it, and make sure you have fun with that. So really, I would for starting out, just to have fun and see how it goes. I would stay away from magic users.
Yeah, I agree.
I think a fighter rogue. Yeah. Let's say if you got 2 people and a DM, a fighter rogue.
That's a great combination.
Would be a lot of fun.
Maybe fighter monk, but fighter rogue's going to be way easier. Yeah.
Monks are cool. I want to play a monk that just fights with his hands. I'm a DM. I want a simple character. No, I don't use weapons. I'm a monk that plays with
just my fists.
Yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do.
I want to punch ghosts.
All right.
No, I agree. I think that's the great way to go about it. If you want to get more in depth with it for your first campaign, maybe watch a couple of episodes of maybe not just Critical Role, to give you an example of some other examples too, but watch hey, here's an episode of Critical Role. Here's what is XP to level 3. What is theirs? It's got a whole thing it's called. Maybe check one of theirs out just to get an idea for how the game works. But again, going into that, remember, not every DM is those 2 DMs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jacob and Matt Mercer are both really good DMs.
Yeah.
And then
also remember, that's their kind of life.
Yeah.
And they've got the time. They got the time to duck into it.
Yeah.
It's not as hard. I think one of the problems with if you go out and you buy the DM guide and you buy the Monsters Manual, you buy the Player's Handbook, and you start opening that and you open up to Forgotten Realms and they give you all the lists of gods.
Oh yeah.
It's just going to be overwhelming, and I think. Well, and this will be a more detailed discussion for later.
Yeah.
This is the first time, but I think we talked about the other night how really the Player's Handbook could be a lot thinner and the DM's Guide should be a lot thicker and done a little bit different.
My advice for people just starting is do sort of what you've done with our campaign you're doing right now. Low magic, as in start off with just core classes, core subclasses from the PHB, that's it.
Right.
And then as you play more with your group, you can open up to more.
Yeah.
I think a big problem, do not, especially in your first campaign, use Unearthed Arcana. Do not.
No.
Because you can already so easily with core become OP. As soon as you start allowing all these other subclasses, as soon as you start allowing Unearthed Arcana, especially when you're a new DM, do not be afraid to say, I don't feel comfortable with that in my game yet.
Yeah. Let's see, there's... D&D 5e is completely opened up right now. If you're getting into it right now, there's so much stuff to look at. And it's really... It's fun, but it's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
And it can look overwhelming. And the game is so much more simple than that, so much purer than that. Mm-hmm. There's great tools in there. Great tools. But as far as hard and fast, stick with these rules, those are very limited and very few.
Yes.
And if you stick with those and then take advice as you go, and don't just listen to us. There's many channels.
Oh yeah.
Many channels with great guys and gals giving good advice. Mm-hmm. Not only on speeding up combat, but storytelling.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that and give our perspective of that as well.
Well, and I think we'll get into a Session 0. I think that's a very important episode to make on this podcast.
Yeah.
This is a Section 0. But at some point, we'll do an episode on that. But make sure your expectations are set.
Right.
Do your players want combat more than role-playing? Because if so, you don't want to tell this great grand story when all they super care about is combat.
Yeah.
But if they want a really good story while they're at it, then maybe gear it more towards like there's a war or there's a conflict between nations or there's an invasion, something that ties it together. But if they really want role play, start small.
Yes.
Let them build up into their characters.
And you're going to have to anyway. Some people are natural clowns, natural actors, and it's gonna fall off. A lot of people aren't, and they will. They'll have to build into it. And also, look, if you're the DM, don't kill yourself. If you want to write a massive world, that's great. Do it.
Yeah.
Get in there. Your players probably won't care about it that much.
Right.
But
you will.
You will, and please don't let it deter you from doing that, because as you're rolling the story along, and this will make much more sense later as in later episodes, as you're rolling the story along, running from that, you have that.
Oh yeah, you can use it whenever you want.
Exactly. It's
I've got a world in my pocket that the session we never got to run a session in it.
Right.
I have that world sitting in my pocket.
Yeah. We had one. I was trying to run a session 1 on it, and it just collapsed. The group did nothing. I wasn't. It was a little bit Avatar Airbending, but it was just because we were using elements,
right?
And I was actually going back further to what the what was it, the ancient Greeks.
Yeah.
Like it's getting late. My brain's going. Anyway, Earth, Wind, the basic elements, and it just didn't work. It was action economy got thrown off, and that just ruined everything. And that's something you got to watch out for. But we'll talk about that another time too.
At the risk of upsetting Google with myself, another piece of advice I will give to both DMs and players is don't be afraid to steal. If you have an idea from something else that looks cool, don't copy it wholesale. Don't go, I want to be Inuyasha from Inuyasha.
Oh, right.
But go, hey, I think the idea of a character that, he's got a rough situation with his dad and his brother's out there and he doesn't know what's going on with that, and he wears a cool red coat, you can do that.
And I want to bring that up because there's a lot, because over the years, starting way back when, one of the questions was asked is, well, if you could be somebody, in this world, and like you get like Robin Hood or Arthur or Lancelot, get like that, kind of gives you a starting point like that. So those are all great, and there's so much media out there. Mm-hmm. Inuyasha, that's a great example, because I'm sure nobody's going to go, okay, in their head think, well, D&D, and they're going to go that way.
Yeah.
But there's so much flavor there.
Well, and once you have that character, they will change. They won't be whatever you originally meant for them to be.
And you want it. It's
they
a
will
growth
grow.
Character.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it has to. And that's a cool thing.
There's a saying that one of my old DMs used to say is, no character survives the first session intact.
Oh, right.
Because by the end of the first session, your character is not what you thought they would be. Maybe your character starts throwing somebody off the rooftops, and you intended for them to be a regular bargeman who was a normal person, but they got thrown off a building, and so they got mad, and so now they're too sure of themselves and think they're too great.
Yeah.
You know, that happens. I'm not calling out anybody specific, myself. But that happens.
Just saying.
Maybe you make a half-orc druid or ranger, and you're really excited for him because he cares about the kingdom and he's super loyal to the king.
Yeah.
And then he makes a really bad roll and says something stupid, and now he's an idiot for the rest of his life. You know?
Yeah. Well, look. Even if you don't do voices, you're shy, you're quiet, whatever. As you're playing, whether you're on the DM side, whether you're on the player side.
Yeah. This is maybe the best advice that I've heard about from anybody about voices, so go for it. Because you mentioned this to me the other day, and I think it's great. If you can make a voice, excellent. If you can keep it going, don't. A lot of times, and this is a trick I use, because my voice will give out. So when my characters first meet the NPC, I will give it the voice and I will do my best if it's some kind of sound. After that, I'm not necessarily going to have a whole conversation doing that voice. I'll be like, well, now he goes into it and he'll tell you the rest of the story. Yeah.
And I can kind of wrap up and summarize there. Now, once again, look, if it was just you and somebody else that was sitting at the table, it would probably be a lot more of the voices and a lot more animated, but there's other players there that's not what they're not into that.
Yeah, the RP is just accessory to them.
But they still role play through it.
Right.
But it's that way. It's not the voices and acting it out.
Absolutely.
It's, okay, now I do this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think there's this misconception with voices where you have to do a voice. No. I have a player in my campaign that he has never done a voice once. Yeah. But his characters are all very distinct from each other. He gets into character. It's just his characters have his voice because he doesn't do it for special voice.
Well, and I think I would never require anybody to do a voice.
Yeah,
the only thing I ever ask for, some characters, it's great if you can do a voice because then I know when you're talking to me in character.
Yeah, or out of character.
Out of character, you know?
Yeah.
And that makes it easy. But you know what? If you can put your hand on your head and I know you're talking out of character.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so you don't have to do a voice from it. And like you said, there's other ways that the character comes through. And the other two people in that, they're not going to, you know.
Yeah, they don't need to do a voice.
Yeah, they're not.
They're having fun anyway.
Dance it out, but I still know their characters because they're playing them and they're interacting. You know, they may not give a big soliloquy or sing.
I mean, you know, some people might sing in voice every once in a while.
Go through that, but yeah,
I love doing voices as a DM. But my problem, and this is a problem that many DMs share, is I struggle with voices of the higher range without them sounding super bad. And so often what I will do is just do like yes, that's what I thought. And then, like you said, I'll go into, you know, and so then she's like...
yeah. I have found if I do a feminine, instead of trying to go higher pitch, I try to go a little bit softer.
Yeah.
And here's another thing about voices: it's not necessarily the sound of the voice. Your mannerisms, if you're sitting around, your 100%. Mannerism will liven it up.
100%.
Even if you're terrible at doing the voice, your mannerisms and getting into it will do it. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's funny too because in our Discord campaign, obviously they can't see me, right? But I will still move around as if they could see me because it helps me stay in character as the person that I'm pretending to be as the DM.
Well, if you go back, if you actually go back and some of those magnificent people who I'd love to play D&D with, Matt Mercer and that group, you know, as you said, they're professionals. They do this for a living. If you watch them a lot of times doing their job, doing the voice acting, nobody's seeing them. They're all about, you know, their
expressions,
actions, expressions, and everything else.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so we've run through D&D, the history of D&D.
It's been a jam-packed first episode.
We've had discussion of acting classes.
Yeah.
Probably talked about many things that I ran through a few different games. I think trying to think of anything else drastic to cover at the end of the show, but I really don't. I think so. I'm kind of running down. I think I may let you wrap this up.
Okay. I think we've covered a whole lot more than I thought we would on the first episode. Again, let us know in the comment section down below if you have some topics you'd like to see us cover. We're open to pretty much anything D&D related on this podcast that has no name. But I say that expecting people to put in the comments like name suggestions. They're not going to.
No.
They're going to call it the podcast that has no name.
Yeah. Which is fine. That's cool.
I'm fine with it.
As long as Clint Eastwood doesn't sue us, we'll be good.
I don't think we have to worry about that.
Okay, good deal. Good deal.
It's a state, maybe, but
okay.
Yeah, no, we want to get into classes. We want to get into how to make a character. We want to get into how to be a DM. We want to cover all these topics. So let us know which ones you find important that you want to hear us talk about first, because we're eventually going to talk about probably all of it. I really want to bring some of my 3.5 books, and I want to do like a little like breakdown of my favorite things about 3.5, and I'd love for you to do the same thing with second edition.
Okay. I don't have. Now look, I have one D20.
Yeah.
It's my D20 of death, a black and red D20 that I have from then.
Yeah.
That is it. Now I had stacks and stacks of books and second edition, and I don't.
Ryan, we have to do an episode on dice superstition at some point. We have to.
Because I am not at all. I've got my little box with like 2.5 sets of dice in it.
I do a dice ritual every time I play.
I've got players taking stuff, and I honestly, I think dice are much more important to the player than they are to the DM.
I agree, but I have a player killer.
Yeah.
I have a player killer die, and it is the one I always use. That sounds bad. I don't purposely try to kill my players, but that die has killed players. Yeah. We need to wrap up.
All right, I'm going to let you handle that.
Until next time, again, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I've been Trey.
I've been Ryan.
And we've been the podcast that doesn't have a name.